Good morning, everyone. I am Bridget Lewis, and I am your grant management specialist for the Civil Rights Trail Grant. If you have questions, I'm your point of contact. I'm here to help you polish up your application, answer questions, clarify the rules. As the process goes forward and the application goes live, we are scheduled to go live January 2nd, and it looks like we will meet that date. So for this particular presentation, I want to go over some of the rules, go over some of the eligibility, important dates. As far as the application goes, we will have another seminar just on the application on January 3rd to help you through that. And if you have problems going forward, you can always email me, schedule a call. My contact information will be available at the end of this presentation. So let's get started with the Civil Rights Trail Grant 2025. It's administered by the Oklahoma Historical Society, but the State Historical Preservation Office will be handling this grant to highlight it and give it individual attention. Let's get this going here. Sorry about that. Okay. So the purpose of the grant is to assist organizations that highlight Oklahoma's contributions to the civil rights movement by publicly honoring those involvements. And the objectives are to connect all the Black towns and the Native American sites and any site that has contributions to the Oklahoma civil rights movement. Our goal and our hope is to maintain the individual character of each site and highlight their unique contributions to the civil rights movement. We want everyone to keep their own identity and their own contributions to the movement and highlight those as well. We're hoping to stimulate tourism, foster entrepreneurship, and promote economic development between all the sites. So let's go over the grant at a high level. Let's hit the milestones and the eligibility guidance first. Let's get to some important dates. On January 2nd is when the application goes live. The application will either be available to submit through our website and snail mail. You can also download a hard copy and attach everything by paper to the back. So you could do either of those. February 15th is the end of the process. That's when the application process closes. If you're going to mail the application in, please have it postmarked by February 15th. On February 16th is when the review process goes live. Everyone will start the review process at that point, the review committee. Then at approximately May 2nd, the review committee will submit their recommendations to the board. The sites will be notified at that time by email, and then hopefully by May 15th, 2025, this will go live. You can start your project. The eligible organizations, the rules are very tight. So the grantee organizations that can apply are the municipal governments, the county governments, the tribal governments, and nonprofit organizations. If you are a out-of-state nonprofit, you will need an Oklahoma Secretary of State number, and there will be instructions on that website as to how to, on our website and through the Civil Trails Grant informational portal that will tell you how to get that number. And one more thing I did want to mention, and I did mention on Saturday, if several sites reside within one county, the county, if they're willing, can apply on behalf of those sites, and it can count as one application as long as it will be finished within the 12-month period and fall within the dollar guidelines, which will be coming up next. So projects ranging from 1,000 to 50,000 are eligible for this reimbursable grant. Keep in mind that this is a reimbursable grant. The project needs to be paid for, and then the money will be supplied to reimburse you for those costs. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. And the proposed projects must be completed within 12 months of the contract initiation, not of the signing, but as soon as you get that contract, the clock starts running. So the project, whatever you pick, needs to be able to be finished within that time frame. I'm going to go over some eligible project samples of eligible projects. This is not an exhaustive list. It doesn't mean that you have to choose one of these. So just to get you thinking and understand going forward what you might want to do. So let's just go through a few of these. You can conduct, transcribe, or catalog oral histories. You can do digital conversion, preservation assessment, exhibit research, writing, graphic design, fabricating, enhancement and or repairs to visitor centers, museums, signage, educational plaques, historical markers, construction of visitor amenities, storage management and or care of collections. And this is coming directly from the rules. And the rules are your best friend as you apply for this. So I would keep the rules handy as you go. I'm finding every time I read the rules, I find something else that I want to hone in on. So to put together a comprehensive package, the rules are your best friend, such as they are. Production or installation of audio and visual components, public programs, guided tours, publications, website development, educational workshops, acquisition of collections, archaeological and historical surveys, field work, preservation covenant, easement preservation. Back here really quickly, I did want to mention that you can pick 2 or 3 items to include in one application. For instance, if you want a historical marker, but you want an educational workshop that expands on that historical marker, you are more than welcome to do that. So you can combine any of these, whatever it's going to take to highlight your contribution to the civil rights movement in Oklahoma the best, you're welcome to do, as long as, again, if it falls within that dollar threshold between 1,000 and 50,000 and can be completed within 12 months. Some ineligible project expenses, and these are set in stone. They're through the rules. Rent or mortgage payments, utilities or insurance, salaries, wages, benefits for employees. However, they may be considered, these salaries may be considered if the employees are for the grant project. If they attribute solely to the grant project, then they may be considered. Acquisition of real estate, planning of new construction, fundraising events, entities utilizing federal and or state historic tax credits, historic preservation projects that are part of a federal undertaking. So be careful with those. Watch those as you go through. And indirect costs. And indirect costs basically refer to an organization's overhead. For instance, if you have a finance department or a finance person that's helping manage this grant for you with compliance, then and if they want to have part of their budget reimbursed because they put in that time, that's considered an indirect cost. So this is the new portion that we did not cover on Saturday. If you happen to be there, this will be new information. And this is the actual application items. And the application items and the requirements come in 3 different categories. Some are related to the organization itself, some are related to the project, and some are related to both. So let's start with the organization items. These are usually quick and easy. Most of these, name and contact of authorizing official, organizational status, whether you're a nonprofit or a governmental entity. If you're a nonprofit, you will need your filing number, your organization description, which will be a little more comprehensive, and we'll get to that a little bit later when we discuss the evaluation methods and criterion, and your strategic plan if available. Now, this is set as optional within the rules. However, it is in some of the evaluation criteria, so I would encourage you to include one of those if you have it. And the strategic plan is at the organizational level, not at the project level. So it's about the organization as a whole, its goals, whatnot. So the items that are related to the project alone are the project name, project cost, amount requested, and project summary. And for instance, there's a potential educational impact too that was in the rules, and that may include historic concepts, exhibits, programming of the project and applicant and organization, and the project potential will also include the demonstrated need in the community for the community organization, how publicly accessible it will be, things of that nature, how it's going to affect the project as a whole too, how you fit in. There was a question on Saturday about, well, how can some of the smaller sites compete with some of the larger entities that may be applying? Well, highlight your own individual character, your own contribution that cannot be duplicated with any of the other sites, something that's unique to your site. That's something that, if you highlight that, that's going to give you your weight, produce the best application that you can. And it's something that nobody else can duplicate. And we have key staff volunteers, timeline of the project. Hold on a second, why did it go crazy? Sorry about that. There we go again, potential educational impact, project potential, we just spoke on that. Any projects, plans, or specs, documentation of community support, which is really important for the project potential. So if you have those, just letters from the community, support from the community for the project, please include those. That will help get you your maximized score. And method of gauging project impact is just how are you going to figure out if this is working for you? Either amounts of visitors, whatever you think you can use, whatever metric you think you can use to gauge how your project is impacting visitorship, entrepreneurship, all the things mentioned at the beginning. The application items for the organization and the project, where both are related, are again the accessibility to the public. How are you going to do this? The date of board of directors approval, and then your key staff of volunteers for both. So it's good to mention your key staff volunteers. If they're the same, that's fine, but mention those for both the organization and the project going forward. Oh, here we go. This is the evaluation. And as I mentioned before, on Saturday, I come from the grant writing side. So if I were to write this grant, my advice to you would be, number one, again, like I mentioned before, highlight your own individual contribution, your unique contribution. When I was reading and researching the different sites, there's so many different personalities and characters of the different sites. I would hone in on what you think makes you unique. Now, the evaluation criteria will be weighted by 5, 3, or -2. I would have this available within the rules. If you need a copy of the rules, you can always email me and I can get you a PDF. I can send you a hard copy if you'd rather, or it will be available on the website as well. I would have the evaluation with me as I go through so that I can know what to highlight to get my highest score. I'm going to start out with the weight that's the highest weight, and it'll be weighted by 5. And what I have done for you here is I put some related application items that may correspond to the criterion. So as you write, you can hone in on those to know that this is weighted by 5. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. And many of these items go for all the weighted criteria except for the -2. So if you do a really thorough job on the 5s, the 3s will start to come naturally. So an educational impact. And again, that may include historic concepts, exhibits, programming with the proposed project of the applicant organization, and the related application items here are any plans, your project summary, organizational summary, accessibility to the public, and again, method of gauging project impact. Project potential may include fulfilling a demonstrated need in the community, economic impact on the community, how it will affect you beneficially, or your organization, how publicly accessible it is, product or service that produces a measurable outcome. These are the things that they're looking for the project potential. And you can see some of these go for both. Just a second. Can't get this to go. Excuse me. My apologies. All right. These particular items will be weighted by 3. Institutional readiness, and that may include past accomplishments. It may toot your horn. Tell them all the wonderful things that you've done. Tell them that, for instance, if you have residents that have been there or families that have been there the whole time, you want to highlight them, go ahead. Anything that makes you stand out and talks to the culture of your particular site. Programming activities, facility, again, the basis of community support. If you can have people or residents to write letters supporting the project, letting the review committee know that your community is excited about doing this, that's important. Participation of the board members, volunteers, again, you're getting back to that key volunteer section in the application, and accessibility to the public. And then the implementation of the project and the ability to complete the project within 12 months. Again, you can do that in the project summary, project budget with the vendor quotes, or the market research. You can also let them know, hey, I know this is available right now. There's no waiting. I can get this and get this done within 12 months. A timeline, and again, method for gauging project impact. And again, your project sustainability. This is just your plan to maintenance going forward and keep it, excuse me, keep it available to the public. And the -2 doesn't fall into this grant cycle because it's the first grant cycle. But going forward, it'll be failure to meet the requirements from prior Oklahoma Civil Rights Trail grants, if applicable. And again, that's not applicable for 2025. So again, I just encourage you to have those rules handy as you're going through this, as you're going through your application, so you can hit those items that are 5s, and also maybe make them known, make it clear, make it concise, and going forward so that they can see, in the project summary, you can address, for instance, let's go back to the 5s really quick. And this is true for the 3s too. So let's say you're doing your project summary. In your project summary, you could put a little section in there for educational impact. So then the reviewers will know, hey, this is the educational impact section. And going forward in your different application items. So make it clear so that the reviewers see it and they don't miss anything. And everything's concise and clear. again, that would be something I would do if I was writing this grant. I would put together the narrative, your creativity, the unique contribution to both the community and the civil trails, but I would also back that up with the numbers in the budget and have a concrete timeline. So those two concepts together will help you put together a very nice application. Now, how is it going to be reviewed? Well, the Oklahoma Historical Society Staff Review Committee, and that's appointed by our executive director. They'll rank the proposed projects using the rate criteria that we just spoke about, the 5, the 3, the -2. And then using that established weighted criteria, they'll be weighted by that. And each portion of the evaluation will be scored from a 1 to 5. And then that score will be weighted by the 5, the 3, or the -2. And then the review committee will evaluate based on the weighted criteria and adherence to the statutory and regulatory program requirements. But going back again, that's completed within the 12 months and between $1,000 and $50,000. And they will also evaluate it by geographic balance, as far as like spreading the trail out within the state, the existence of a strategic plan for the applicant. I'd like to mention that because even though the strategic plan is optional, by putting that in there, that will help you maximize your score, and compliance failures regarding past Oklahoma Civil Trails grant awards, which is not applicable at this particular grant cycle. And this will all be happening within between February 16th and May 2nd. And then next, the director shall submit the evaluations to the Civil Rights Committee for review to the full board, and then the board of directors will make their final determination. The grantees that our projects have been approved will be notified via email. If you prefer a different contact, you just let me know in your application or email me directly so I can make sure I get you that good news. And then the OHS will initiate that contract. And when that contract is initiated, that is when the grant cycle starts. So as soon as you receive that contract in your hand, that's when that 12 months starts. So make sure whatever you choose can be completed within that time frame. Important notes, this is a reimbursable grant, so we'll try to keep that in mind when developing projects. If you are going to pick up several projects and apply them for one grant application, they don't have to be completed all at the same time. You can complete one phase and get reimbursed, and another phase and get reimbursed, just as long as you finish within the 12 months. So that may help you with the reimbursable portion if you do choose to use several items within your application. And modifications to project scope or project budget, more than 10%. If any item or spending category that will require prior approval in written form from the director. So that will be, you'll have to go through that process and still finish within 12 months. So keep that in mind as you go. And finally, here's my contact information for questions. I'm available. I am fully dedicated to this grant, and I want to help you put together a great application. And I look forward to receiving them.